This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. It's a bird. It's a plane. Oh no, it's just another weaponized hurricane created by the United States military. That's right. Only took another week, and we already have what's being called an extremely dangerous hurricane ready to hit the East Coast. Now, they are just making this so normal that people aren't even blinking anymore. And that's how you desensitize people, right? You use words like, I'll play for you in some of these news clips about Tropical Storm Lee, which is going to turn into a Hurricane 4 and potentially a Hurricane 5. They use words like, we've never seen anything like it before. It's a once-in-a-lifetime storm. And nobody's suspicious about it because they've got this thing in the back of their mind called climate change. So they're now just accepting the fact that these ridiculous weather events are happening over and over and over again. And people are like, well, they always get hit on the East Coast. Florida always gets hit. Always gets hit since when? When? Every week now we have hurricanes? So we see what's happening with the Great Reset here. We see that they are wiping out areas until they're completely destroyed. And they're going to hit it with weather over and over again because nobody except people like me and you are going to continue, or nobody is going to realize what's happening, and we're going to continue screaming from the rooftops till people actually wake up. Now, there's this thing called HARP. There's this thing called geoengineering and cloud seeding. There's so many things out there that I've shown over the years where you can see that they are using the weather as a weapon. Operation Popeye, I've mentioned them all 1,000 times, so why bother continue? No, I will continue to mention those things because people need to wake up and realize that they have the ability to control and manipulate weather. They admit to it openly. The problem, again, is that people don't think the government would actually do this to them. So all of the desensitizing to these types of storms, the fact that it keeps happening every single week, is making people just roll their eyes and go, whatever. Florida's getting hit again, right? We had Maui, well, all within a month. Maui, then we had the hurricane quake up the West Coast, the first hurricane that's hit the West Coast since 1939. Now, people are like, well, it wasn't as bad as they said. Well, they still flooded out areas and don't think they're not going to get another one, okay? Because when they do this type of stuff, every time they do it, they're looking to do direct hits. They're targeting specific spots. And if they don't hit it, and for whatever reason, if it veers off, whether it's God's involvement or whether or not something happens where it just doesn't build up enough strength the way that they want it to, then they'll hit it again. And that's exactly what you're seeing here in Florida, because Idalia, while it did hit and do damage, like I had said, to St. Petersburg, and it flooded out a lot of areas. A lot of people said it wasn't as bad as the media made it out to be. Well, maybe that's so. But they're going to continue to hit it to the point where it's uninhabitable land. Because once it's uninhabitable and people have to leave, the government confiscates that land and they say it's now their land and you can't do anything about it. So let's take a look at this clip now of the news anchors talking about Tropical Storm Lee, which is extremely dangerous, is going to turn into a Category 4 at the minimum hurricane, and the direction of it looks like maybe it'll avoid Florida, but it's going to hit the East Coast. The entire East Coast is a target all the way up past New Jersey, as far up as they could hit it. Mass, you're talking about Rhode Island, Long Island. They're going to just drill the East Coast, and they're going to drill the West Coast too. Take a look and look at the trigger terms like once in a lifetime, never seen anything like it before, like I've been talking about. These are the things they're doing to just plant seeds that it's climate change.
Right now on the News Edge at 8 o'clock, we're tracking Tropical Storm Lee. It's only been named for a few hours, but it's already packing a powerful punch. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Manny Martinez. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joined him right off the top. You're keeping a close eye on this storm, and storms don't get much stronger than this one in the amount of time that it's gotten strong, have they?
You're absolutely right. In many ways, this is unprecedented in that earlier when it was a tropical depression, in the same advisory on the same cone, the National Hurricane Center had forecast a major hurricane happening this week. So picture a tropical depression, which is now a tropical storm, and in the same frame, a Cat 4 hurricane. That's never happened. And it reflects the incredibly high confidence that forecasters have in judging what will become of Lee. Currently a tropical storm forecast to become a major hurricane by Friday, and it could even reach Cat 5 status before this weekend is out, and it's going to be very close to land. But at the current track, it'll be safely north of the Lesser Antilles. Islands like like Anguilla and Barbuda, and also St. Croix, British Virgin Islands here, just farther north. I mean, it's going to be in the vicinity of, but safely north of. So if this track holds, they're really going to dodge a bullet with this one. The spaghetti models, you might be wondering, is this going to impact us here in Florida? Well, there is a general agreement that they will curve north, and I'll show you what's driving that curve coming up. We hope it holds, because obviously with a storm like this, if it does track farther west, it will have big implications. That doesn't look to be in the cards at this point. What does look to be in the cards, though, is that this tropical storm becomes a hurricane before we know it, and a big one at that.
So I love the fact that this thing is so far away, but they already have knowledge of it, right? They already have a knowledge that it's hitting a week from now. Oh boy, and they know the exact trajectory because of the amazing technology we have. It's not anything to do with the fact that they're the ones steering it, and the Weather Channel and all these people are told where it's going, what it's going to do, and to prepare people for it so it doesn't seem too suspicious, because of course, if they didn't warn you and you got hit, then everybody would be like, what in the world is this? But since they warn you, they desensitize you, sometimes it doesn't pan out the way that they expect it to, then people just automatically kind of shrug their shoulders and accept it and just say, wow, the climate's really getting out of control. We better shelter in place for the rest of our lives. Then we can avoid hurricanes hitting all the East Coast places that they always hit. Everybody in Florida should stay locked indoors, because clearly them breathing outside is causing hurricanes to come through, right? You better get an electric vehicle so we can stop all these hurricanes from coming, everybody. We all better get rid of our gas stoves so we can stop these tornadoes from hitting in the Midwest. Oh! Anybody thinking? Does any of it make sense? No, it doesn't. But they're going to do stuff like this to convince you that climate change is real. And then people are going to go, well, what can we do to stop these absolute, just horrible tornadoes and earthquakes and hurricanes and wildfires that, our government sets with direct energy weapons? How can we stop them from coming? And they're going to go, well, for starters, you have to stay inside longer. Okay. For starters, you can no longer drive to see your grandma. Okay. You can no longer fly in an airplane. Okay. You can no longer have a gas-powered car. Okay. You can no longer shower every day. Okay. You can no longer have a thermostat that isn't controlled by us. Okay. You can no longer eat meat. Okay. You can no longer wear clothes because you're only going to have 3 outfits per year to wear. Okay. And you can't use a washing machine. Okay. Will that stop the hurricanes from coming? Yeah, it'll slow them down. Okay, it sounds good. Sign me up. I'm a great person. I'm going to do this for the environment, and I'm going to do it for my fellow man. Just like when I got that injection that I put in my body. I did it for everybody else, not for me, even though they told me it wouldn't make me immune. Sounds great. Sign me up. Oh, what? Yeah, so does any of that make sense? Of course not. Of course not. Does it sound like hell on earth? Of course it does, because that's what the climate change agenda is. They're destroying our homes. They're destroying our land. They're making it uninhabitable. They're destroying crops by doing all this stuff. And, what are they telling you after the fact? Well, stay in your home. It'll stop this from happening. Oh, and we're going to burn trees down, by the way, and we're going to cut them down and bury them because we don't want them to absorb the carbon dioxide in the air, because they can make oxygen, and we don't want you guys to have that either. Okay, great. Where's my phone? I got to play Pokemon. I'm an adult playing video games 24/7. I'm an adult who collects toys and acts like a 2-year-old, and I have kids, and I'm a great person. Oh, no, you're not. You're the reason that society is in the toilet, because you're stupid and weak, and that's what we're living among. So, back to Tropical Storm Lee. It's expected to rapidly intensify into an extremely dangerous hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean by this weekend. According to the National Hurricane Center, the CIA, they said Wednesday morning, as the season approaches its typical early September peak. Lee could become a hurricane Wednesday, then a major Category 3 storm or stronger by late this week, possibly Category 4 or 5. So Lee is not far from hurricane strength and is likely will achieve that status later. I love that they have a trajectory for it when it's all the way out there. It's actually by other continents. And they're like, it's coming for America. Why do all these come to America, by the way? How come we don't hear storms like this? And I'm not saying that they don't get stuff, because someone will comment like, we got hit with something. But really, does any other country get drilled the way that we get drilled in America with these weaponized weather? Is that because in other countries they could just use their military and stuff against the citizens and do stuff like we've seen in France and other places, because the citizens are all unarmed? See, here they can't do anything like that. They can't run down the roads, with military, because the majority of citizens, at least over 50%, are armed. Now, that doesn't mean that the military can't handle the majority of citizens. They can, but they're outnumbered by the citizens. So they just like to use the weather here, and of course they're using it in other means as far as hurting us in specific places and then building these smart prisons that they're going to build around the United States. So isn't this incredible? They have all CNN has provided us with wonderful Atlantic tropical season charts about how insane it gets around September 10th and how over the last 100 years, how many storms have been named so we could keep up, because they like to give names to these things. Whoever has that job, what a wonderful job. I'm surprised they're not just calling it, Hurricane Beelzebub at this point. I mean, what's next? Hurricane Baphomet coming in October? Probably, right? Hurricane Lee, Idalia, Ian. Somebody's getting paid for that. But I mean, that's actually more work to name these hurricanes than what CNN actually does on the news, because it's not really work to lie to people all the time. So September 10th is the climatological peak of Atlantic hurricane season. So be ready. Conveniently, that's when this is hitting. They're telling us it's climatological, just a new word they made up, peak for hurricane season when the basin is at its busiest on average. So a flurry of tropical activity surrounding this date is not out of the ordinary, folks, but it can turn hazardous fast. So they don't want you to think there's anything out of the ordinary here. I mean, it is more extreme because of climate change, but don't be suspicious that every week we're going to have a new hurricane, right? Remember like El Nino? Does anyone remember in the 90s when El Nino hit? I was thinking of that skit with Chris Farley when he was yelling about El Nino. But El Nino is a big thing, right? People remember El Nino like they remember Katrina, right? And obviously the amount of damage done in those events compared to some of the stuff in recent hurricanes is astronomical in comparison. But it was like a one thing. Oh, Katrina. Wow, we're still talking about Katrina. Florida's just getting, you can't even name some of them because they have so many named hurricanes week after week. It's just a weekly occurrence, right? Starts at the end of August, and it runs all the way through November, and then the next thing you know, they come out and they tell us they're going to be rebuilding for years. Build back better. Oh, what are they talking about when they say build back better? Build back better? Great reset? What are these things they're talking about? What do they speak of? Oh, nothing to see here, when they're openly telling us. People aren't like, what do you mean build back better? Oh, Biden just means they're going to build back America better now that Trump is gone. Oh, okay. No, they're destroying the infrastructure, building back better. They're talking about green, smart, efficient energy, which is all mind control. All it means is enslaved technology that'll control every movement you make and every breath you take, just like the police told us. Oh, yeah, by the way, not just Sting and the police telling us that. This will also be a police state. It will really be a military state. So another hurricane, nobody's suspicious. They're just like, yeah, this is normal. I'm sure you'll mention it to somebody, anybody listening. You might tell your grandma, your cousin, your friend, and they'll just be like, what's the big deal? Florida always gets hurricanes. Oh, okay. And this one sounds like it's going to go up the East Coast. The Carolinas are other targets that they want to take out. Okay? Those are other destinations. And if they can hit up, remember Jersey got Sandy about a decade ago, still talked about in New Jersey and up in the East Coast. Don't be surprised if they get hit as well. Weaponized weather, ladies and gentlemen, not climate change responsible, but they're using climate change to make you accept the fact that they are wiping out states, they are wiping out counties, they are destroying people's lives, but they can blame it on the boogeyman, so you can't do anything about it. And anyone who asks questions about it, you get silenced, or they tell you to go put your tinfoil hat on, because the narcissists out there cannot accept the fact that the people that they worship and are idolaters over, the people that they, are their false idols, that goes from politicians, because we see these people worship the politicians from Trump to Obama to celebrities, et cetera, et cetera. They couldn't believe or fathom the fact that these people that they love so much would want to destroy and wipe out humanity. And one of the books that they love to read, again, it ends in the word mud, har, bala. Those are some of the words, that's what it ends in, the teachings that they have. Yeah, a lot of it talks about not just, which I've mentioned before, us being goyim and being worthless cattle to them, but it also talks a lot about how if something is done to other people through like a third party, like blood's not on their hands, right? So doesn't that work out perfectly? Like where they create these storms, like, well, whatever ends up happening is just whatever ends up happening. We didn't directly do it, so we don't have to feel guilt. And these people don't feel guilt because anybody who worships Satan does not feel guilt. Again, they believe in duality. Their good deeds outweigh their bad deeds. It's important to know that, because that's how they sleep at night. They literally think with some of the stuff that they do, whether it's weaponized weather, destroying people's lives, or some of the acts that they commit with children, they think that that if by them writing a check for $100,000 or even $10,000 to some children's hospital, that would outweigh it, that it balances it out. So the bad things they do, which they believe is all human instinct, and they're acting on human instinct, that's what the Satanists believe, that it's okay for them to do it as long, if they're holding a door open for grandma at Chuck E. Cheese, well, then that's a good deed. So it outweighs their bad deed, no matter how disgusting and disturbing it is. That's how they think. That's what these people are thinking on a day-to-day basis. So they have no conscience. They have no remorse for what they do. And this is obviously not an act of natural Mother Nature. This is an act of controlled demolition by our government. And that's why they tell you weeks in advance before these things hit, because they know where it's going and where it's going to hit. It's just a matter of if it could be a direct hit and they could do the damage that they want. And guess what? If it doesn't do the damage they want, they'll either use a direct energy weapon like they did in Maui to get it done, or they'll just send more because they know the common zombie out there will not get suspicious. Zombie, 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 base. That's what we live among, folks. I thank you for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Keep an eye on the story because there's going to be more. God bless all of you as always and your families.